Microsoft Word Tips. Welcome, this is Mary Carrier from the Clifton Park-Halfmoon Public Library. I'd like to share some word tips with you, starting with some basics and moving on from there. The first thing I'd like to point out is spell check. By default, Microsoft Word has spell checker on, and you'll see red squiggles underneath the words that are either not in Microsoft's dictionary or considered to be misspelled. So let's take a look. If I have red squiggles, I could go through the entire document by going up to my tabs and clicking on Review. You should only be single-clicking here in this environment. The first button or command is Grammar and Spelling. When I click on it, it will bring this pane open over to the right. It shows me what is considered a misspelled word or not in the dictionary. The first one is grouse. I can go through and look at the suggestions. If I agree with the suggestion, I can click on it and it changes it in the document immediately. So you would continue to go through this list looking for any misspelled words. The next one happens to be not a misspelling but a typo. So when I read through, these are my suggestions on the right. However, the word should be during, not burring. I can correct this by ignoring it or by changing it immediately. I'm going to backspace and change the word to during. And then resume with my spell check. You can continue to go through the spell check this way, or another option, especially for shorter documents, is to just continue with a right click. So anytime I see a misspelled word that has red squiggles or a grammatical error that's in green or blue squiggles, I'm going to use my mouse and right click. You should right click directly on the word. You'll get a menu with a list of options. There's the correction, so I'm going to left click on chickadees. I'm going to continue on through my document, and here's robins. I'm going to left click and continue on to make my corrections. As I'm looking at this, I can see that one word that was not corrected or caught is the word birds up at the top. And I know that's misspelled. So we need to figure out why that was not included in the spell check. I have a hint, so I'll give that to you. If you go to the word File up on the tab and scroll down to Options, File Options, these are all your settings in Microsoft Word. Under the proofing options, one of the first things it says is when correcting spelling in Microsoft Office programs, ignore words in uppercase. So that's why it missed the word birds. If you use uppercase for your headings, it's probably a good idea to come here and take the check mark off. So I have now gone to File, Options, down to Proofing, and corrected that. While I'm here, I'll also point out that if you don't like Microsoft Word checking your spelling or your grammar because you'd like to do that on your own, you can remove that option. When you take these check marks off, Microsoft Word will no longer flag those words that it considers to be mistakes. I'll click OK, and then you'll see that it does check and find that the word birds is misspelled. I'm going to right click and left click on the correction. While I was under File Options, I want to point out something else that's very handy, also under Proofing. It's called AUTOCORRECT Options. Click on AUTOCORRECT Options, and you'll see some additional settings, and these are also affecting everything as you type. So for example, capitalize first letter of sentences, capitalize names of days. These are auto-corrected. So in other words, as I'm working on my document and I try to do a Saturday with a lowercase, Microsoft Word will correct that for me and capitalize the word Saturday. The same thing goes for the first letter of sentences. When you use a period or you move to the second line, it will capitalize that line. You can correct over that by just highlighting and making the correction. But this shows you where these settings are located. The other cool feature in AUTOCORRECT is down below. As I scroll through this table listing, Microsoft Word has added all types of words that are either typically misspelled or typos. So for the word accident, for example, if I misspell the word accident and spell it D-A-N-T, it will auto-correct itself to the correct spelling. So accommodate, across, achieve, many examples here. Take a look then and see which type of word is included in your case. Is it a word that you commonly misspell? One that we can practice on is the word jewelry. I'm going to click in here in the Replace tab and type in jewelry as a misspelling. And I want to replace that with the correct spelling. When you add your own words, type it in, then click on Add. You'll click OK. You'll click OK again. And we're going to test this down at the bottom of this document. Remember, you have to misspell the word the way you have it in your settings. So there's the misspelled word. When I press the space bar or enter, you'll see it automatically corrects it for me. So go ahead and explore that. It was File Options, Proofing, AUTOCORRECT, to add your own words and make things a little bit easier for you. Another feature is called Find and Replace. I'm going to return to my Home tab, and I have the words Find and Replace up here on the right-hand side. I can use Find to find a particular section or a particular word or a page in a document. In this case, I want to show you how Find and Replace works. So I click on Replace. Throughout my document, I may have been using a word and then decide later that I want to change it to a different word. And a good example might be I use the word customer throughout a long document, and the boss tells me they'd like to use the word client. So rather than changing each word one at a time, I can do a change all at once. For this exercise, with the birds document, I'm going to type in the word find what is wren and replace with warbler. You can replace one at a time, but it's easier just to go ahead and click Replace All. It shows you how many replacements were made in this document. I have 2 replacements. I'll click OK. And then close out of this. As you can see, where the word wrens was, there's now the word warblers. And it does not matter if it was lowercase or uppercase. Word is smart enough to know and change it as it's appropriate. Now I'd like to talk about cut and paste and copy and paste. So first of all, cut and paste. Cut means move. So the first thing you do, there's 4 steps. I'm going to highlight what I want to cut from the document or move. There are a few different ways to highlight. I just showed you one, which is clicking and dragging. You actually just need to click and hold and drag to the right and pull straight down. That will save you from the sweeping technique of moving back and forth. Another method is to use your white arrow from the left margin. When I find my white arrow and click once, it highlights a line. I can click and pull straight down. I could also use my white arrow and double click, click, and that highlights a paragraph. Once you have this highlighted, the second step is to copy it. You can use on the Home tab the 2 pieces of paper to copy. or the scissors to cut. And then you will use the clipboard to paste. The second method would be to right-click in the highlighted area, and you can copy or cut. We're going to cut this from this area, which means move. And I'm going to place my cursor or click where I want this to be placed. That's step 3. Step 4 is to click on your clipboard and click on the center of it, or as I showed you this way, right-click and paste. Always use the first clipboard option under paste. And the reason why is because it keeps the source formatting. In this case, the formatting is the same in this document, but if I move to another document, it might be different. So take a look when you are pasting at the different clipboard options you have. That was cut and paste. Cut means move. I moved that paragraph from the bottom to the top. The next one is copy. You can copy a section or an entire document to a new piece of paper or to another spot in that current document. I'm going to move this entire document to a new sheet of paper. So in order to do that, I can click and drag, as I mentioned. Click once and pull straight down. Or I can use a keyboard shortcut. Control A. Hold down Control on your keyboard and press A on your keyboard. Control A selects the entire document, whether it's 1 page or 20 pages. The next step was copy. I'm going to right-click in the highlighted area, left-click on copy. The third step is to find your new location. In this case, I wanted to put this on a new piece of paper or a new document. Go to File, New, Blank Document. I'll double-click on Blank Document. And the last step is to right-click and paste. Remember, you have different options of how you want it pasted. I selected the first one to keep the source formatting. What I just showed you was copying and pasting an entire document. You probably don't need to do that. It's good practice and you can try it. But another method would just be to save this as a different file name or in a different file location. So if I look down below at my Word documents, I do have Lesson 2 Birds. That's the original. This one's Document 1 because I have not saved it or named it yet. So I can go to File, Save As. I could have used the original document and just use File, Save As and name it something different. When you click on Save As, then you'll click on this PC and then Documents. I would rename this if this was just my original document. Instead of calling it Birds, I can call it Birds in New York or any other title that would work. Pay close attention to the top line. This is your file path. This shows you exactly where this file will be saved. If I wanted it in a new folder, I would click on New Folder, name the folder. When I press Enter, that locks in the name. I'm still not saving it to that class folder yet. One more step. Double click on the class folder. Now on my file path I can see this will be saved in the class folder. So I named it Birds in New York and click on Save. So now I have two documents. One is called Lesson 2 Birds and the other one is called Birds in New York. And the way that I know this actually saved is up on your title bar in the top center of the blue area. It says Birds in New York. Moving along, I'd like to show you a few other options of things that you can do in Microsoft Word. So I'll use a new file. This one is going to be National Parks. This is Lesson 3, National Parks. What I'd like to show you is maybe how to make this a little bit more interesting with some pictures and shapes. That's through your Insert tab. Again, I single click on the tab I want to use. I'm going to click on Insert. And the first one might be Pictures. Use the drop down. Pictures on this device are pictures that you have on your own computer. Inserting online pictures is coming from the internet, from Bing. Bing is Microsoft's search engine. So I can go right to animals here. There's different categories, or I could type in what I want to add. So one thing was a bear listed on this national parks. Type in your search, press enter on your keyboard. I like using Bing pictures like this directly online because I have a checkbox for Creative Commons only. That's a default. That means that these pictures have already been allowed and there's no copyright infringement on them. So these are free and available to use. I probably don't want to use this roaring bear for my national park brochure. So I'll look for one that might be a little less scary. How about this one? You can click on it, then click Insert. Depending on the size listed from Bing, this picture comes in as very large or very small, or somewhere in between. The first thing I want to do that's very important is to use text wrapping. It's called Layout Options, and it has a small square, looks like a rainbow arc in the middle. This has been in every version of Word, Microsoft Word, and it's text wrap or wrap text. I start with square. As soon as you do that first important step, now you see a four-pronged arrow. That means I can freely move this picture wherever I want to in my document. So the four-pronged arrow is for moving. I also may want to size this. Sizing would be making this larger or smaller. I find my diagonal arrow down in the bottom right corner. I'm going to click, hold, and drag up and to the left to make this smaller. I can move this and place it anywhere I want in the paragraph. Another technique is to look at your layout options, and as I rest my arrow, I'll see what they are. So tight, and this means how your picture is compared to your paragraph that you're using. So tight, the word's going to be tight, which is pretty close to square. The next one is through. I would have to be on the text though to see this. So let's take a look again. Layout options, through the text. How about behind the text? Excuse me, this was top and bottom. That's a nice look. The next one is behind the text. So that might not work in this case. What are some options then? I could make this larger. I could either change the font color, or I could make the picture lighter. Whenever I insert a picture or an object or shape, I'm going to have an extra tab available for me to work through those pictures and make some changes. So here we have Picture Tools Format. I can use some of the adjustments that are available in Microsoft Word. So I might lighten this picture a bit. You can read the text a little bit easier, and as I continue to make this picture larger, click and drag. It's not perfect, but it is readable, and you can tell that there is a bear in the background. As I mentioned, I could change the font color. highlighting just the font. On the Home tab, the A with the red color is your font color, and maybe make a change to it. So that would be something that you could play with. Changing the font color or changing the background color of the picture. If I go back to Picture Tools Format, again, I had corrections. You can pick and choose from here, brightness and contrast. You can have other artistic effects. These are pretty interesting. It gives it just a little bit different blur to it. So try this when you have a chance, going through and trying some of these options. If you wanted to, you could make this a black and white photo, for example. Again, to find those options for the pictures, it's important that you click on the picture. Once it has the circles around the picture, that means that it's highlighted, and that's where you'll find your Picture Tools Format, your extra tab specific to making changes to the picture or the shape or object that you have highlighted or selected. Let's take a look at a shape. So I'm going to move down further into the document and go back to Insert. Insert Shapes. These also have been around with all the versions, but this is actually a lot more visual than what you had in your older versions of Microsoft Word. Now you can click on a shape, find a shape in any of these options, and when I click, I'll get the crosshair or plus symbol. When I click on my screen or my document, it automatically places the shape on my document. Again, I can size or move. I'm dragging to size this, and I'm moving with my fork-pronged arrow. If you're wondering about the curved arrow, that's for rotating. That's kind of fun. I can click and hold and drag with my wrist a little bit and change my arrow so that's kind of more at a tilt. Again, I'm going to make this smaller. And again, with the options, I have Drawing Tools Format, and I can change the color. If I use this area, I'm automatically changing it as I click. This is considered shape fill, so this is the other alternate way that you can change color on a shape. If you look real closely, I have a yellow outline, so this would be Shape Outline. And you can match the shape color or add some contrasting color. Under Shape Outline, you also have the weight, which is the weight of the outline, and you can make that a little bit more noticeable. Again, I just clicked away, so now I've lost that formatting area. When I click on it, it brings it back, and I see all my different options that I can use if I want to make changes to this. While I'm here, another fun technique when you're using shapes or pictures is to duplicate this. So I'm going to click on it so it's highlighted and use Control-D on my keyboard. And I did it a few times. Control-D means duplicate, so it makes it the exact size and exact copy. You could do copy and paste, but I kind of like that shortcut. Control-D as in duplicate. If I want to use these all together, I can line them up. I'm going to actually delete this extra one. I just clicked on it once and pressed delete on my keyboard. Now if I want these to be all one symbol together, one grouping, I have to click on each object or symbol. So I click on the first one, hold down Shift on your keyboard, and click on each other symbol or object. Once I have those highlighted, if I look under Drawing Tools Format, I should see a symbol with 2 squares. That is to group these. I also like to right-click. When I right-click, I see the word Group. And I click on Group, and now this becomes one object. I like to do that in my documents so that I can move this around freely, and then you can right-click and ungroup the group. Make sure you have that clicked on or highlighted. Group, ungroup. You can size these. And use those or place it wherever you need it. I'm going to give myself some room. Maybe this is our national parks logo. I can click, hold, and drag this to where I want it, or I could cut and paste. Dragging takes a little more patience, as I can show you that I'm dragging this, and I kind of have to stop and start a little bit as I'm moving through. So what I just shared with you was a technique in Drawing Tools Format. You can use this with pictures or with shapes or objects. Hold Shift on each symbol or object to select them, and then use the word Group. You can use right-click, or you can use the option that's on your toolbar. Moving forward, I'd like to show you a technique that you can use for making lists. So if I have a list here, I can add bullets to it. This is also under Home. When I click on the bullets, I can add them before I begin typing or after. So if I add them first, I just click on this bullet option, and I can make a list. So my list might be, I'm going to backspace actually so I have a heading. Things to do. So some things to do that you might want to do in the park. Now I'll turn my bullets on. It automatically tabs or indents as you add a bullet. So we're going to type in hiking and biking and swimming. I did backspace, or you could double click when you're finished with your list. So we have our basic list. Again, had I not had the bullets on, you can always just highlight your list and add the bullets by clicking on it. This is an on-off switch, meaning a toggle. There's without bullets, there's with bullets. So to add something a little more exciting to this, I use the drop-down arrow. And here I have a few options, bullets, that are available to me. But if we want to do something a little bit different, look for Define New Bullet. So you use your bullet drop-down, slide down to Define New Bullet, and then click on Symbol. This brings up a lot of different symbols that are available to you. It actually will sometimes bring up other font styles here. So a fun technique is to slide down, scroll down, and you're looking for wingdings or webdings. And that gives you actually more symbols versus just options. So when I use Tahoma or some other options, I can get some basics like copyright and registered and trademark, maybe some equals and not equals symbols. But if I use webdings or wingdings, now I'm looking at actual symbols to enhance my document. You can scroll through and see if you find something that is appropriate. probably don't want to use a lightning bolt when we're talking about the national parks. There is a tent in here. I'm not finding it right away, but so I'll just use the musical note because that's a good one just to show you in general. When you click OK and click OK again, look at that. Your list now is bulleted with musical notes. So those are fun and handy. If you want, you can make this larger. The only problem with that is when I go to my home and my font size, as I start making this larger, it makes everything larger, meaning the text as well. So I'm going to undo to get back to the small size. I just want the bullet to be larger. So again, I go down to my bullets drop down. Under define new bullet, instead of symbol, I'm going to click on font. And it brings up Webdings because that's the font style we're looking at. Maybe I want to go to a 16, size 16. You can even add color to make that fun. Because I have all three of my bullets highlighted, this will affect all three bullets. Click OK, OK again. I guess I didn't use a very large size. Let's try that again. Go back, define new bullet, font. You will be experimenting with this a little bit as you play with bullets. There we go. So the font size stayed the same, but the bullet size changed, and the color. Another tip about using bullets, I had mentioned that if I press enter, I'm going to continue getting new bullets. If I press enter twice at the end, the bullets disappear. The last bullet disappears, and this does go back to the margin, the left margin. If I want spaces in between each line, here's another trick. I click after the first line, and as you're typing or afterwards, you can do Shift Enter. Find Shift on your keyboard, press Enter, and that leaves a space in between. Shift Enter. And after biking, Shift Enter. So that gives you more space. Just by pressing enter, I can get to the next page to bring everything down, things to do. I'm going to backspace because I have an extra space there. There we go. I have this pretty good shape. I would probably continue to make some changes to this document, make it larger, go into more detail. I'm trying to show you just some highlights so that you have those in mind. So maybe something else that we want to do is we want this Grand Teton National Park to be on a separate page or a new page. Originally I just showed you pressing enter. When you press enter, you can see, if I go back to home, on in your paragraph group there is a show hide feature. When I click on this, it looks like a backward paragraph symbol. I can see all the times I pressed enter. This is great if you want to look at your spacing, or if you get a document from someone else and you want to take a look and see how many spaces or what they did to their document. I'm going to turn show hide off, and rather than click and press enter several times to make a new page, you can click where you want the new page to start, go to insert on your tab, insert pages, use a drop down if you see that, page break, insert page break. By the way, I am using Microsoft Office 2019, but over the years the features really have not changed much, maybe some of the locations, and there are a few minor changes between versions. Nothing to have you run out and buy the next version. So I did insert page break. Here's page 1, the original page, and here's page 2, second page. I can find that by the bottom left corner. It shows me my pages, page 1 of 2 and page 2 of 2. But I don't have that on my page itself. If I go to File, Print, here's my print preview. Again, this on the bottom shows me those are my pages. You can go through the arrows and get through your pages, but I don't have any page numbers listed here. So back out of print preview by using the arrow in the top left corner, and whether you're at the beginning or as you continue to use your Word document and add to it, you can insert page numbers. This is under Insert, Page Number. When I use the drop down arrow, I can pinpoint where I want my page number located. So I prefer to have mine at the bottom. You can use the top. This is very visual, so I can look through my options, and there's a whole lot of them. As you look, you can scroll down. Just different formats. I would like to use my page number in the center. So all I do is click on it, and it brings in my page numbers. As I continue to move through my document, I will get additional page numbers automatically. This came in as a footer. As you can see, I'm in the footer area. If you find yourself in the footer area, you can just click on Close Header and Footer within your ribbon in the Design tab. Again, this is another tab that comes up automatically, and you can just close out of it. You might accidentally end up in your footer if you're down close to the bottom. If you're up high and you have a header, I'll do that up here. When I double click, if you accidentally end up in your header, don't panic. You can just close the header and footer, or here's a trick, you can just double click in the body of the document and you're back in the body of the document. So I did Insert Page Number. If I use Undo, and I remove my page numbers, I want to show you that you can do headers and footers all at once. So Insert, Header, and you can decide what you want in your header. Again, different styles as you scroll down through. I'm going to click on the blank 3 columns. This is popular. This has been around for many versions. And now, since I'm in the header, I have different options listed at the top. So here's page number. We also have date and time. Your document info, which would include author, file name, file path, or document title. You can add a picture, like this logo that I talked about. So all these options are available. It says type here. I'm going to highlight that. You can either use these features that are available in the design of your header and footer, or you can manually type. Whatever you do in your header and footer is going to be on every page. So this one, in the type here, I'm going to type in prepared by Ranger Mary. And then here I might delete this, or I might add something to it. In this next type here section, I'm going to include the date and time. When I click on the button or command in the ribbon, it brings up this feature, and this is what I can pick how I want the format to look for my date and time. Update automatically. If I click that checkbox, it's going to always put today's current date in your date and time feature. If I didn't want that, maybe I wanted this to say January 2020, I would not click that checkbox. I can now go to footer and see what options I want to include in my footer. Again, I can manually type, or I can add what I'd like here. So I'm going to go to page number, bottom of page, put it in the center. Maybe I want to press tab and move over and add something else. You can add the file path, you can add a picture, you can do whatever you'd like. I'm going to backspace and get myself back and close out a header and footer. Now when I look at my document, I see in light gray what I've added to the header and what I've added to the footer, and that's on every page. You can make changes to this, and you would just have to go into your header and footer, insert header, and edit header, and take a look at all your other options. Different odd and even pages, different first page if you did not want, maybe you didn't want this to start with page 1, you wanted to do something different. So take a look at headers and footers if that interests you. It will be printed on every page, and it will be in darker, not grayed. It's grayed out because I'm just viewing it. If I go to File, Print, I can see my pages. I like this feature at the bottom right corner. I can zoom, and as I zoom, I can read this more closely. I'm making this larger zoom. It's at 188% right now. As I go down to a smaller zoom, below 50%, I can see my white space on my pages, and there's where my header and footer would be displayed. I'm going to go back to my original document, and I have just another section to share with you. Going back into that document, Lesson 3, National Parks. To show you the next section I want to talk about, that is tabs and tables. It's not by default to have this ruler at the top, so if you like that, which I do, you need to go to View on the tab, View, and then look for Ruler. It's a check mark. So yours will not be checked. Check on the check box, and then the ruler comes up. The ruler, where I click, shows me here are my margins. So I see my left margin here and my right margin here from my ruler. You also will start off in print layout mode, which is just normal view. If you have not experienced with the tabs, then you'll learn that now. So the first thing I want to show you is when I press tab on my keyboard, it indents, and by default it indents a ½ inch. If I keep pressing tab though, it's indenting the entire paragraph, which is probably not what you want to do. So I can do undo or backspace, and that gets me back to where I was. I want to show you what these triangles and square are used for. Again, you click where you want to make your adjustment, and if I focus on just the first triangle, I rest my arrow, it says first line indent. Click, hold, and drag to where you want to indent, and it only impacts the first line. So I had showed you if I use tab and indent, it's going to move the entire paragraph over, but if I just want to move the top more indented, I can use my first line indent. I'm going to bring that back so you know what it looks like. The next one is a triangle, and that is for hanging indent. So I click and drag. I'm going to click and drag this to 1 inch. Hanging indent leaves the first line alone and indents the rest. Gives it a little different look. I'm going to bring that one back. And the square is for the left margin. Click and drag, you're moving the entire left margin in. If I want to bring that in 1 inch, and here's my right margin, I want to click and hold and drag this in. That might be for you're trying to do some kind of quote, or you just want that to be a smaller area. So those are your options with the ruler. You can click and drag and change your indents or change things on your ruler. I'm going to bring this back and this back. Another fun one, if I click on Home, is to highlight a paragraph, and you have your alignment group. So you have left aligned, here's center aligned, here's right aligned, and the one you might not be familiar with is Justify. It distributes your text evenly. I think of this similar to a newspaper column. It's even between the margins, and it's spread out a little bit more. It's good for readability, but sometimes your spacing might be a little too much. Something to try though. So again, if I click on left, you can see this is a jagged edge. If I click on Justify, it cleans up the right edge. It gives it a nice look, and it's nice for readability. It varies a little bit by your font style. Back to the ruler for a moment. If I come back here and I line everything up, I'm going to come down to some free space. So each area might be a little bit different depending on where you are. If I was moved in a little bit, tabbed, I can use backspace and go back. Now my margin is all the way to the left side. If you want to set tabs, that's located here, very, very small in the left side, the left corner. So by setting tabs, I can make a list, and I have different tab stops. When you click through this, you'll see there's the center tab, next one's a right tab, a decimal tab, and so on as I click through this. So there's 2 steps to setting tabs, and I'll show you what tabs even do. That helps with indents and lining things up. Click your left tab first to get that's step 1. The second step is to set your tab. That means click on the ruler where you want your first tab to start. Left tab, 1/2 inch. Wherever you are on your screen, you can set, this is where you're setting. So I'm here, and you just saw that I may have noticed I can move these. Click and hold and drag. The next one is center tab. Clicking around 3. And the next one is a right tab. Click a little after 5. So if I don't press tab, I'm fine. I'm going to type in type of birds in New York. And I'm going to press tab. Notice it tabs over or indents. And the first one is going to be date. When I saw the bird, press tab. It's center aligned at about 3. And this one is going to be type, the type of bird. And now I tabbed, and it's going to go to the far right. And it's right aligned, so it's going to start at the right side of the screen and move back towards the left. And this one is going to be location. Where did I see it? Press enter, tab to go down. 6/3/18 is the date I saw it. I pressed tab. I saw an oriole, and it was at the Visher Ferry Park, Visher Ferry Trail. Press enter, tab again. So as you can see, now I'm on more of a roll. As I'm typing in. Based on how I set my tabs, I am now able to automatically indent and move these over each time I type. Again, I can make adjustments to this at any point. What I'd like to show you then is the option of a table. Rather than using the tab, you can also use a table. Get my margins back to the left, and this is under Insert. Insert Table is going to be rows and columns, but they'll be visible. So I had 3 columns across, and I can make as many rows as I want, and I can continue to add rows. Let's say that I put Birds of New York up here. I'll show you another trick. Birds of New York. as I press tab, I'm going through, or I can click with my mouse to get to that cell. And this one is going to be type, date, type, location. Pressing tab each time. If I press enter, enter makes your block or cell larger. Keep pressing enter. That gives you more space. The opposite of that is backspace. But if you want to keep everything consistently the same size like this, just keep pressing tab. Tab will move you through as you continue to create your document. Pressed enter, that's not what I wanted. A backspace, I want to press tab. Watch what happens. Press tab, it gives me a new row. So you can easily add rows to a table just by pressing tab. So when I click inside my table, similar to what we've seen on some other features, you do have an extra design tab and layout tab here to make changes. If I click layout, it gives me all the options I can do with this. So maybe I wanted to add another column. I can highlight with this black arrow above the column. And then I have options to insert left or right. And that gives me another column. Or delete columns. So all the options that you have to manipulate your table are available here. The fun one I wanted to show you here, well, first let's talk about this. This plus symbol is a quick, easy way to add a row. That's one of the newer features in the Microsoft versions. I'm going to highlight the title and make this look a little bit better. So instead of having it broken down like this, because it is a title rather than a title of a column, it's the title of the whole table. So I'm going to use merge cells. I highlight the text and the cells. Click merge cells. Merge cells means make this all one long cell or large cell, and then the rest are divided cells. The four-pronged arrow allows me to move this table, bring it wherever I want. And the diagonal arrow allows me to make it larger or smaller. And you would continue to change your font size as you go through. The red squiggles, this gives me a great opportunity to show you. If I spell check, it has it misspelled. It's not familiar with this word, so I'm just going to add to the dictionary. By clicking on add to the dictionary is one of the options when I right click. I hope you've learned enough for one day. Thank you for joining me today.